Speaker Bedke. Do you believe that Ammon Bundy was doing anything wrong by being in the Lincoln Auditorium on August 25th, 2020?
Objection. Speculation, foundation, opinion, not relevant in any way.
Do you understand the question in the terms doing anything wrong?
In the classic sense, I understand.
Okay. I'll allow you to answer if you have an opinion on that. Or if you have a basis of knowledge to make to give such an opinion.
I have some basis of knowledge. Let's say that there is a public meeting going over there today, an interim committee meeting, and it schedules at 1 o'clock and it's over by 2:30. At 2:30, the room is closed and people can't just hang out there after 2:30. In a similar situation, the business had been conducted on August 25th, and the room remained open until the business on the other end of the hallway was conducted and finished, and then at 5 o'clock the rooms are locked, and people that don't want to leave at that point are asked to leave. And to the extent that that's constitutes doing something wrong, refusing to comply, then it is my opinion that it was after 5 and it was time to go.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
You mentioned that the rooms in the room in the Lincoln Auditorium is kept locked during public hours if it's not being used.
Correct. If we walk over there right now, the door is locked.
Correct. But prior to August 2020, were the doors always locked to the Lincoln Auditorium room?
Prior to, if there's no business going on in there, in those rooms, then typically the doors are locked.
Second Amendment rights. I've also gone in the Lincoln room. People come to the Capitol and they want to see the Capitol building. They want to kind of tour the area. And so I've taken school groups from my local schools, sometimes even not local. I know a lot of people around the state that will come there like with their families, and so I'll meet them there and I'll take them on a tour of the Capitol, and we'll go into the Lincoln room because it has a lot of historical value.
Have you ever gone in there not on business, just personally?
Just when I've taken people that, like my grandkids, I took them in there one day when they came to the Capitol.
In August of 2020, was the Lincoln Auditorium open to the public?
As far as I know.
Is it open to the public right now?
As far as I know, it would be.
In August of 2020 and before, was the Lincoln Auditorium always locked?
Well, like I said, I have gone in the Lincoln room without having to ask to have the door unlocked because I took my grandkids in there, and I've taken other people who have come to the Capitol in the Lincoln Auditorium. This past session that we just had, we would have to go ask security to unlock the doors for any of the committee rooms. And in my recollection, that was different than it had been previous.
So you're saying now it's locked, but back then it wasn't?
That's how I remember it, because I remember going in there without having to ask to have the door unlocked.
Would you say that before August 2020, the Lincoln Auditorium was open for people to come sit down freely in there?
As far as I know, they would be able to.
In all of your experience from the renovation, I think you said 2010, up until August 25th, was your experience that the Lincoln Auditorium was open to the public?
Well, I believe it always was open because that's a special place. You know, that is a tribute to Lincoln. And David Leroy has given us a lot of his memorabilia to place in there. So whenever I come down, when we're not in session, I always take, like my grandsons, they love going through there and hearing about Lincoln, or any constituents that I might have with me.
And so again, focusing back that time up until August 25th, did you have to have a key to get in that room?
I didn't, because it was open. Usually the doors were open. Maybe they close them and lock them at, when everything closes at 7, but during the day it was open because this is the people's house and we want the people to come and enjoy all the things that are there.
Okay, thank you. When you went there on June 22nd specifically, what time, and just to clarify, you went there with Mr. Bundy?
Yes, I remember, no, we met there.
You met there.
Mhm.
And then do you remember what time of day it was when you got there?
So we left around 6. We got there probably around 4, maybe a little bit earlier. We were in the Lincoln Auditorium for a substantial amount of time. And so.
Okay, so you got to the building around 4. You got to the Capitol around 4.
Might have been a little earlier, but yeah.
Okay, and so then you walked in to the Capitol building. Did you go straight into the Lincoln Auditorium?
No, we had checked some grounds outside first for potentially having their session outside. And then we came back inside, and I had suggested the Lincoln Auditorium because of the size. Then we went down there, and we were down there for quite a long time because Ammon had a couple of phone calls he took.
So when you went to the Lincoln Auditorium, were the doors propped open?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, propped open? That I don't remember. They were definitely unlocked. I don't remember if they were propped open or not.
Okay, so were you able to go into the Lincoln Auditorium without asking for
Absolutely.
assistance? When you got into the Lincoln Auditorium, do you have any approximation of what time it was?
Around 5, I would guess.
And how and you say, what time did you say you left the Lincoln Auditorium?
So it would have been pretty close to 6 because we decided to go have dinner afterwards, and we went across the street for some tacos.
While you were in the Lincoln Auditorium, did anybody else come into the Lincoln Auditorium?
I don't remember. It was just me and Ammon, but I can't remember if anybody came in or out.
Did you see anybody else through the windows of Lincoln
I remember
Auditorium?
security guard coming by. Security guard came by, and I talked to him just for a quick second. Hey, how you doing? Fine. And then I looked up to see when the hours were, because I was happy that it was all open. I wanted to see what the public hours were, so I looked it up on my phone, and it told me that it was from 6:30 to 7 p.m. And I remember very specifically stating to Ammon, check it out, bro. It's open till 7. That's amazing. And I had no idea it was open so early. That's kind of crazy.
Did anybody, after 5:00 p.m., did anybody try to kick you out or ask you to leave the Lincoln Auditorium?
Never.
When you left the Lincoln Auditorium, did anybody talk to you about how you really shouldn't have been in there?
Never.
Thank you. No further questions.
Do you ever visit the State House?
I have actually visited the State House a lot of times, for a lot of different reasons.
Give me some of those reasons.
Okay, so in the past, my husband and I took our sons to go. We would go, actually, it was kind of interesting, but we'd go in the evenings, and there was an awesome security guard, and he would show us around. And so we went to a lot of different places, learned a lot about the State House, and we really loved it. And then I've also been involved with being there for basically testifying either for or against legislation that was for liberties or not in the State House. I've been there quite a bit in the last probably like 5 years, quite a bit. I mean, a fair amount.
Did you ever go in the Lincoln Auditorium when there wasn't a committee meeting going on?
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell me, what was the nature of those visits?
Just kind of a little bit like what I said. So those rooms, I mean, this is literally the people's house we're talking about. I mean, I have never felt in all of that other time before this incident unsafe and like that I couldn't just go to whatever room. I'm not going to go into someone's office if I didn't, make an appointment. But I mean, all of those rooms are open to the public for a reason, unless there's a committee meeting going on or whatever. And then you would obviously not go in during that time unless you were going to go in and testify or do, whatever it was you needed to do.
Have you ever been in the Lincoln Auditorium?
I have.
Okay, so now I want to focus on the time period up until August 25th, 2020. So in focusing on that, did you ever access the Lincoln Auditorium during the time period, anytime up through August 25th?
Yes, I've actually been in the Lincoln Auditorium many times prior to that date.
And in your experience, has the Lincoln Auditorium ever been locked before 7 p.m. when you've used it?
The times that I have used it have been times prior to 7 p.m. and even after 7 p.m. And I've always been able to utilize it. And I myself have never had anyone have to unlock it for me.
And so in your opinion, is the Lincoln Auditorium open to the public?
Objection, relevance, her opinion regarding the law.
In your experience, withdrawn.
Overrule, well, questions, John?
In your experience, is the Lincoln Auditorium open to the public?
Yes, the Lincoln Auditorium has been open to the public because it is usually part of the tour that people can take. There's self-guided tours and there's also conducted tours. And the Lincoln Auditorium has always been part of that tour for the Capitol.
So if someone's giving themselves a self-guided tour, they don't have to ask permission to go in the Lincoln Auditorium?
Typically, no, because there are relics and pictures and different things like that. So people are usually able to go in there on a self-guided tour.
Mm-hmm. And in your experience, has anybody come to you and said, hey, I need to get a key to get in the Lincoln Auditorium?
I've never had anyone ask me that.